The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast. We are talking NFL. That's right. NFL preview starts tonight. We're looking at the AFC and NFC East divisions. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast.
From Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network, you're listening to the Sports Stove podcast with your host, Vince Stover.
Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up to me?
Welcome into an all-new edition of the Sports Stove podcast, presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com, and you can use the code STOVE15 at checkout. That's going to give you 15% off your purchase. Welcome into another Wednesday night edition of the program. And we're talking a lot of football. We're diving into our NFL previews this week. We'll probably hit a little bit of NASCAR at the end of the program as well, if you'd like to stick around for that. But I'm your host, Vince Stover, joined as I am every week by my dad, Dale Stover. Dad, how you doing?
Doing good. Exciting to talk NFL. So looking forward to this.
Yeah, you know, going through the prep work and things like that, you reminded maybe of a couple guys who switched teams that, you know, when I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot they're over there, those kinds of things. And then getting excited about, you know, what comes up throughout the thing as well. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with the AFC AFC East, and then we'll get to the NFC East. And here's how we're going to break it down this year in our preview. We've done things a little different over the past years. So we're going to talk about the team's ceiling, what we think their ceiling is going to be for the season. Then we're going to talk about win totals, over or under their win total. Then we're going to rank coaches, head coaches, quarterbacks, running backs, pass catchers, O-line, front sevens, and DBs on a scale of 1 to 5 for each team. And kind of talk through how we feel about the units that they have coming into this season as well. So we're going to start things off with the Buffalo Bills. Shout out to the 2 Buffalo Bills fans that I've known were Buffalo Bills fans before the Josh Allen era. So let's hear that's what Dad, you know both of them, Zach Greco and Mike Weston. 2 guys that I knew growing up were Bills fans when it was unpopular to be a Bills fan. That being said, let's start with the ceiling for the Buffalo Bills, Dad. And I'm curious, there's been a little bit of change this year. Obviously, losing Stephon Diggs, the defensive line has lost a little bit. But I'm curious to know kind of what your general thoughts are on the Bills and what do you think their ceiling is going to be this season?
Well, I think, you know, this will be an interesting year for the Bills. I mean, we talked last year about their windows kind of closing, so they need to do well. But as far as the ceiling, I think they're still potentially a Super Bowl team. They have the quarterback. They still have a lot of weapons. I don't think I will pick them probably to be in the Super Bowl, but when you look at what would their ceiling be, I think they've got one more year still where they could make a run at it. They probably should have the last couple years, but when you talk about ceiling, how high could they go? I think they could be a Super Bowl team.
So I put their ceiling at a deep playoff run, conference championship game. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team this year. I think they don't have enough. Now, if Keon Coleman ends up being a superstar wide receiver, that could change things a little bit. But I just don't think they have enough power defensively even to get to that point this year. They're going to be good. They could win the division. Again, when you have a quarterback, you've got a lot. So Josh Allen, I'm a big Josh Allen guy. And even honestly, with Mitch Trubisky as the backup, if Allen goes down for a couple games, I'm not as negative on Mitch Trubisky as some people. So I think they're going to be good, but I really do not think they're a Super Bowl team this year. And so I put their ceiling at a deep playoff run, conference championship game, that kind of a thing there. Their win total this year is set at 10.5 games, Dad. The NFL this year, I think that's the highest. That's the second highest win total. The Chiefs and the 49ers are both at 11.5. There's several teams at 10.5. But Dad, Buffalo, 10.5 wins. Of course, that's a regular season record. How do you feel about 10.5?
I'll go over that. That may be about 10, might be about where it is, but I had down a little more than that. So I'll go over 10.5 for Buffalo. Again, I like Buffalo, and if they're going to, stay relevant, they'll need to do it this year. And we'll see. I haven't really thought through everything in the AFC, but the AFC has been strong, but I think Buffalo has a shot. So I'll go over.
Yeah, I think if you consider them to be a division winner, I think you have to go over 10.5. And I think, they would be in that competition, that conversation. So I go over 10.5 also. I think they still have a decent regular season. I just don't see them getting to the Super Bowl, in my personal opinion. And granted, I've been burned by the Bills the last couple of years thinking that they could make it to the Super Bowl, and they didn't. So maybe that's part of it too. But yeah, we'll both go over 10.5 for Buffalo. All right, let's get into these rankings then, how we feel. We're just doing each team and each position here on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being no good, 5 being the best in the league. And we're going to start with the head coach, which is Sean McDermott. He's back again. Just so you know, the staff, it's Joe Brady, at offensive coordinator, Bobby Babich at DC, and Matthew Smiley at special teams. But we're ranking the head coach here, Sean McDermott. And to me, he's a guy that there can be a lot of conversations about, where I think you're going to have people who think he's really good and other people who think he's average. Where do you line up with that?
Well, again, I thought he's a very good coach. Again, they've underachieved a little bit. I would rate him as a 4. I still think he's a very good coach. And so, and again, I'm going to use, half ratings on some of these too. So, but I give him a 4.
See, I've got him at a 3. I like him. I think he's done fine. But to me, he's not been able to get over that next hump to get up to where I use the 5 with coaches very, very sparingly. And so 4 to me is a top-notch coach in the NFL right now. And I just don't think Sean McDermott is there because of his lack of playoff success. So that's why I've got him at a 3. Quarterback Josh Allen, where do you put him on the scale?
I give him a 5. He's at the top. He's one of the top quarterbacks, no doubt about it. And, that's what makes it tricky with Buffalo, because like you said, when you have a quarterback, you have a lot. And not only is he a great talent, I think he's a good leader. And so I would have to rank him as a 5.
Yeah, I've only got 3 quarterbacks ranked as a 5 in the whole league, and he's one of them. I'm a Josh Allen fan. I like him, what he can do. I like his moxie, but what he can do as a quarterback, both passing and rushing the football, I think puts him at the top tier of the league. So I've got him as a 5 as well. Running backs, you got James Cook as the starter, Ty Johnson, and Ray Davis behind him. Ray Davis, the rookie out of Kentucky. What do you do with running backs here in Buffalo?
I like Cook, but so I give them a 3.5, 3.5 for running backs.
I gave him a 4. I actually believe in Ray Davis. What he did at Vanderbilt and Kentucky was impressive. I think he's going to win a playing time in Buffalo, and I'm a big James Cook guy as well. And so I give him a 4. And I look at my other rankings. I ranked a lot of running backs high. We'll see throughout this whole process. So I gave them a 4. Pass catchers, wide receivers, tight ends. They've got Keon Coleman, the rookie, Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir. They've got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Chase Claypool. They've got a tight end, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Cox. Where did you rank this pass catching group?
I gave them a 3.5 also. Again, we don't know about the wide receivers, but they've got 2 good tight ends. And so I gave them a 3.5.
Yeah, to me, this is the ranking that could go up. I like the tight ends. And pass catchers was a hard one for me to rank. I gave him a 3.5 also, Dad. I like Curtis Samuel. I think Keon Coleman could be good, but when Khalil Shakir's your guy you're counting on a lot, that worries me. Claypool and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I really not big on those guys, although Josh Allen could make them better. But I really like the tight end, so I struggled with this one. I went 3.5 and inched at 4, but I just decided to stay at 3.5 for the pass catchers. O-line, Deion Dawkins, David Edwards, Connor McGovern, Osiris Torrance, and Spencer Brown slated to be the starting 5 there for Buffalo. Where did you go with the O-line for Buffalo?
I give them a 3. I don't think they're terrible. I don't think they're one of the top offensive lines necessarily. So I was torn between 3 and 3.5, but I think we'll go 3.
Yeah, I like this O-line. I gave them a 4. One of the top O-lines in my opinion. I like a lot what they've done. I think Osiris Torrance gets better this year. He was a second-round draft pick last year, so I like that. They also they've got a little bit of depth there as well. La'el Collins is there over there now too, so I like what they have. I gave them a 4 on the O-line. Now, granted, I'm not super educated on O-line, so take it or leave it if you would like. Front 7, generally we're talking pass rush. It includes some of the D-line and linebacker groups. In Buffalo, you get Greg Rousseau, Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, who's phenomenal, A.J. Epineza, Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard. You still got Von Miller there as well. Dwayne Smoot came over recently. How do you go with this front 7 and what this defense can do to bother the quarterback?
Looking at that, I went with 3.5, 3.5 on the defensive line there.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I love Ed Oliver. Von Miller's not what he used to be. He's still good, but he's not what he used to be. Greg Rousseau needs to get better, even though he's decent. Don't love the linebackers, really. So yeah, I'm interested to see how they do. I give them a 3.5, though. Defensive backs, Christian Benford, Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop, Rasul Douglas, and Taron Johnson slated to be the starters, although Mike Edwards is there as well, safety. Kair Elam, the first-round pick 2 years ago. So how do you put this Buffalo secondary?
Well, of course, we know Rasul Douglas, and he's turned out to be really good there at Buffalo. But I think they've got a good secondary, so I gave them a 4.
See, I go the other way on this one. I go with a 3 on this one. Don't love the DBs. I think they have some good pieces, but overall as a unit, I'm not a fan of these DBs. I think that's what hurts the Bills probably the most, especially in a division with dynamic receivers in Miami and a Hall of Fame quarterback in New York. So interested to see how that one goes. All right, let's go to the Dolphins, Dad. The Dolphins ceiling for this year. What do you have their ceiling at?
I have them for a deep playoff run. Is where I have them at. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team yet. I like Miami. I think they're going to do well. So I think they could maybe get an AFC championship, but we'll give them a deep playoff run.
See, I'm going to go Super Bowl with the Dolphins. They're not my Super Bowl pick, but that being said, I think they've got so much firepower that all it takes is a good run in the playoffs, and they're sitting in the Super Bowl. So I got the Dolphins ceiling as the Super Bowl. Their win total is 9.5. How do you feel about that?
I'll go over 9.5. I think they'll do better than that. We'll see how they do, but
yeah, me too. I go over 9.5. Also, I think Miami has a pretty good year ready for them. Coach is Mike McDaniel. He's got Frank Smith as the OC, Anthony Weaver as the DC, and Danny Crossman as special teams. Mike McDaniel gets a lot of publicity for being an offensive mind. How do you rank Mike McDaniel on a scale of 1 to 5?
At this stage, I gave him a 4. Again, he's going to have to kind of prove that. But like you said, he's a young guy, has a good system. And so I gave him a 4.
He gets this publicity as a great offensive coach, but his offensive system is just throw the ball as far as you can and let Tyreek Hill run underneath and catch it. I give him a 3. I think he's a little overrated as a coach, and he's not the one that I would pick to run my team either. And maybe as an offensive coordinator, I'd like that. I just don't think he's one of the top tier coaches. I give him a 3 here. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, you're always higher on him than me. I've got him as a 3. And again, I think you give him just Jacksonville's weapons, and Tua is not the quarterback that he's been in Miami. So where do you rank Tua?
I put him at 3.5. Again, I think, this is a year he's going to need to continue to look very good and stay healthy, and we'll just see if he can do that.
All right, running backs, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane. They drafted a kid in the 4th round this year, Jalen Wright as well. How do you rank the running backs for Miami?
I think they have good running backs by committee, so I gave them a 4. I don't know that any's outstanding, but I think they've got a good there, and I think Jalen Wright could be a real help there. Of course, we know him a little bit from Tennessee, so I put them at a 4.
I'm with you 100%. I got him as a 4 as well. I like Mostert. I like Achane. And then, you throw the rookie in there too. I like what they got there. And again, if I think their ceiling's a Super Bowl, they've got to have good position players, because I don't think they have a great quarterback. Wide receivers, tight ends, the pass catchers, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. They bring in Odell Beckham Jr. this year as well. Braxton Berrios is one of those backups back there. Tight ends, they got Jonnu Smith and Durham Smith behind him. Not great tight ends. How do you rank the pass catchers in Miami?
Again, they've got one of the best tandems, if not maybe the best around. So I did give them a 5 for pass catchers. You're right. They're not super strong at tight end, but they're real deep on the wide receiver standpoint and the way they use them.
Yeah, I'm with you. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, best duo out there, even with the lack of tight end help. I give Miami a 5 there as well. Offensive line, Teron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, Aaron Brewer, Robert Jones, and Austin Jackson. They also got a 2nd-round pick this year, Patrick Paul, as currently listed as a backup. A 2nd-round pick from 21 at the backup center right now, Liam Eichenberg. So how do you rank the O-line for Miami?
I gave them a 3. Again, I don't know all these offensive linemen, like you said, when talking about the Bills. So I've looked at different rankings of where people have offensive lines, unless there's somebody that I know that just stands out to me. So again, they're going to need a good offensive line, I think, to give Tua time and keep him healthy. But I gave them a 3.
I gave him a 3 also. Not big on this offensive line. Front 7, we got guys like Zach Seiler, Tear Tart, Calais Campbell, Jalen Phillips, David Long, Jordan Brooks, Bradley Chubb. Then they drafted Chop Robinson in the 1st round as well. How do you like the front 7 for Miami?
Well, I like Calais Campbell. I like some of them. Their draft picks may be good, but I gave them a 3 again. That may be a little low, but I gave them a 3 on the front 7.
I like this one. I give him a 4. Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, and Bradley Chubb is a big part of that reasoning for me. I like the front 7 in Miami. Defensive backs, they got Kendall Fuller, Jordan Poyer, Javon Holland, Jalen Ramsey, Kadir Kohu. Let's see here. They've also got, I thought there was somebody else that I was thinking of. Don't see him. How do you feel about the secondary in Miami?
Again, Jalen Ramsey's enough for me to keep them kind of high, so I gave them a 4.
Yeah, I mean, Kendall Fuller too, as well. Jordan Poyer also. Marcus May, that's the other name I was thinking of. He's over there now as a safety. I like it. I give him a 4 as well. Again, that's one of the reasons why I think they can be a Super Bowl threat, is because I think their defense is going to be really good this year there. So I like the Miami defense for sure. All right, cool. Let's switch down to the New England Patriots. Head coach, Jared Mayo. Well, we'll get to that in a minute, I guess. Let's start with the ceiling. Well, no, let me give you that. Jared Mayo's the new head coach. He'd been there for a while. Alex Van Pelt, the OC. DeMarcus Covington, the DC. Jeremy Springer, the special teams coach. What is the ceiling for the New England Patriots in this transition year away from Bill Belichick?
Well, with the choices you gave me, I think the ceiling would be 5 wins. Okay. They may do a little better than that, but that's the category I put them in. I think they could have a good team and they could develop, but I don't think they'll be there this year.
So I didn't follow the things I gave you. I've got them at 6 wins. Where I put them at 5. That would be, I guess, the category they would fit in as well. I don't think they're going to get to 8 wins. I think they're under 8 wins. So I got them at 6 wins this year. I think this is a growing year. I really like Jared Mayo, and I think they could have some potential at quarterback and things. But as we go through these weapons, we'll see. I'm just not big on this team. So I give them I don't know. Their win total is 4.5. I would go over that because I think they're a 5 or 6 win team. Where do you think on 4.5 for New England?
4.5. I'll go under. I think they may get 4. I don't know that they'll get more than that. Just depending on, I think the division teams are going to be better. Now, New England, historically under Belichick, always played great against the division teams. And that may be the case here, but they're going to have a couple upsets, I think, to get a lot of wins.
All right, Coach Jared Mayo, new head football coach. How do you rank him?
It's hard to rank new guys until you see, I like him, no doubt about it, but to know, how good a head coach he's going to be, you can always miss it one way or another. Last year, DeMarco Rhymes, how's he going to do? Well, we don't know. Well, he did really well, so we'll see. But Jared Mayo, I'll give him a 3.
I give him a 4. I'm all in on the Jared Mayo train, and I know we don't have anything to stand on that. But I think he will be the best coach in the division. I'm big on Jared Mayo. I thought he should have gotten a job much earlier than he did. Maybe he was waiting for this one specifically, but I love Jared Mayo. I give him a 4. Quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, Joe Milton. No, we're not going to include him on the rankings, but Drake May and Jacoby Brissett are guys we're going to see this year. Where do you rank the quarterbacks for New England?
Again, I think that's very shaky and uncertain, so I gave them 2.5. Again, the rookie may come out there and be good. We'll see, but that's kind of where I put them.
Yeah, you're nice. I gave him a 2. I'm not a Jacoby Brissett guy. I think Drake May has the potential, but I think you got to give him a year, and then I think this number will be higher next year. But for this year, I think quarterback's going to be a real problem for New England. So I give him a 2. Running backs, Ramondre Stevenson. Antonio Gibson comes over from Washington. JaMychal Hasty around as well. Tell me how you feel about the running backs for New England.
Well, I think running back will be their strength, probably offensively. And I like Stevenson, and I always liked Gibson over at Washington. So I'll give them a 4.
Okay, I gave him a 3 on this one out of 5. I just I like those guys, but I don't see one of them as being the dynamic kind of guy. And I think when we looked at the other running backs, we saw a little bit more where you could have one guy you believed in. And I like Ramondre Stevenson, but I don't know that he's the guy that's going to be, the guy where he's going to be the top rusher in the division even. So I went with a 3 here for them, although I understand that's kind of low. Pass catchers, this has been a problem for years now in New England. They drafted Jalen Polk, who I really like, out of Washington. Kendrick Bourne is there, Demario Douglas, Jalen Rager, KJ Osborne. My soul. Tight ends, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. They also drafted Jaheim Bell this year as well. That was a 7th round pick. I don't expect much out of him. How do you feel about the pass catchers in New England?
They do have a couple decent tight ends, but otherwise I think, everything's a little suspect. So I gave them a 3.
Wow, you've been nice. I got them at 2.5. Really low on this group. This is the reason why they're a 6 win or less team, in my opinion. Offensive line, Chukwuma Okorafor, Cole Strange, David Andrews, Sidi So, Mike Onwenu. They drafted some guys in the 3rd and 4th round this year as well. How you feel about the O-line in New England?
Again, I don't know that they'll have to develop. I gave them a 2.5.
I'm with you. That's exactly what I got too. Very good. Let's keep it moving. Defense front 7, Keon White, David Godchow, Christian Barmore, Matthew Judon, Jawan Bentley, Jelani Tavai. Then let's see here. Those are the main guys probably to talk about here in this group. How do you give the front 7 in New England?
I gave them a 3. Again, I don't think there's anything outstanding there. And so that's where I put them to start the season.
So I've got them at a 2.5. This is one that I think could definitely go over that. I think the D line is actually decent. I like them. The linebackers is really my question mark here right now. Again, you got a defensive minded coach. So you expect them to overachieve a little bit, but I just think they're still a little bit of a weakness right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're better than I think they are. Defensive backs, you got Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, Christian Gonzalez, Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar, all back there. How do you feel about the DBs in New England?
Again, I gave them a 3 also there. I think that's about, I'm not sure really how good they are.
I gave them a 3.5. I kind of like them, honestly, a little bit. And so I gave them a 3.5 on this one. Although if the front 7 doesn't get to the quarterback, it's always going to be a problem for sure. All right, let's go to the New York Jets, Jets, Jets. Absolute mess last year due to the injuries. It was with the injury, I guess is the right way to put it, to Aaron Rodgers. His 4 minutes of fame in New York ended horribly. Again, they're led by Robert Saleh, Nathaniel Hackett at the OC, Jeff Ulbrich, DC, and Brant Boyer, special teams. What do you think is the ceiling for the Jets this year?
I think the ceiling will be the playoffs. I think they could make the playoffs, but I don't think, I wouldn't say a deep playoff run.
Listen, you got a Hall of Fame quarterback. Deep run is where I put them at. I don't expect them to make a deep run necessarily, but as much as I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan anymore, he still is what he is. So if he stays healthy, they've got some weapons that they've added. I give them a deep run as their ceiling this year. Win total's 9.5. If you're saying make the playoffs, I think they got to at least get the 9 wins to make the playoffs. How do you feel at 9.5?
I had about 9 wins, so I would go just under 9.5. I think that's about where they'll be.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the Bills and the Dolphins overs. I don't know that 3 teams in the division can get to 10 wins. But, man, I have a hard time. I'll go over with the Jets. I have a hard time if Rodgers stays healthy. I have a hard time seeing them not make it to 10 wins. All right, let's go to Coach Robert Saleh. Kind of like McDermott, you kind of have this generalized. People seem to think he's a good coach, but what has he done? Where do you rank Robert Saleh?
Yeah, it's a tough one there. He may end up being – I'm still going to give him one more year. I'm going to rank him a 4, but he may be a guy that ends up being a great assistant coach. It's not a good head coach, so we'll see.
A 4? I don't know what he's done to earn that respect. I give him a 2.5. I think he's a fine guy. I mean, I got nothing wrong with the guy. But what has he done coaching-wise that makes you go, yeah, he's good? I mean, as a head coach, he's done nothing to look good, in my opinion. I go 2.5 with Robert Saleh. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers is there. This year they bring in Tyrod Taylor as the backup. They also drafted Jordan Travis, by the way, from Florida State. How do you give the quarterbacks ranked here for the Jets?
Well, again, like you said, he's a great quarterback, and so I went 4.5 with him. There, I don't know that he will still, play that well this year, and we'll see how things go. But as far as knowing the game and understanding, the deal is going to be how does the whole thing fit in. To me, that's kind of the thing with Robert Saleh. How good a coach is he? But he's been thrown into the Aaron Rodgers saga, and that's not a great thing to be able to deal with. And, we'll see how Aaron Rodgers does here. I think he's committed to being a good quarterback and show people he can come back. Is he committed to the Jets? I don't know that. And so, we will see how that plays with his other teammates. But I felt like I probably had to put him at 4.5.
I got him at 4. He's got the guys he likes, and he targets those guys, and that's a problem sometimes when the offense is built. Although the offense is built for him, so who knows? I give him a 4, though. I still respect his talent. Running backs, Dad, Breece Hall. They drafted Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin. They also drafted Isaiah Davis. How do you rank the running back room in New York?
I gave them a 4. Again, I think Breece Hall is really good. I don't know for sure what they have behind him because there is a rookie there, but so I gave him a 4.
I went 4.5, and that's high, I understand, but I love Braylon Allen. I think he's going to be a very successful running back. Breece Hall is very good as well. I went 4.5, and honestly, it's one of the highest running back rankings I've gave. It's the second highest. So, I mean, I know that's big, but I like the running back room in New York. Pass catchers, Dad, we got Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Xavier Gibson, Alan Lazard's still there. They went out and drafted Malachi Corley in the 3rd round this year. Tight ends, Tyler Conklin and Jeremy Ruckert. How do you rank the tight or the pass catchers here in New York?
I gave him a 4 because I really like Garrett, and I think he'll be good. Again, it'll be depending on how Rodgers uses everybody, but I do think they have some talent there, so I went with a 4.
I gave him 3.5. Garrett Wilson's the only one I like of that group. And so he himself would be like a 4.5, but the other people around him, I just don't like at all. So I got 3.5 there for them. O-line, they got Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Morgan Moses. They drafted Olu Fashanu in the 1st round as well. How do you rank the O-line for the Jets?
I rank them a 4. Again, I think they've upgraded a little bit. They've got some good people there. Don't think, it's an outstanding as far as being a 5, but I gave them a 4.
I gave them 4.5. They got some veterans that are going to have injury issues, but having Olu Fashanu to kind of move around and play different places, I think is really good for them. I like it. I like the O-line that they have this year. Front 7, Jermaine Johnson, Javon Kinlaw, Quinton Williams, Hassan Reddick, Quincy Williams, C.J. Mosley, and then Will McDonald is there still as well. How do you rank the front 7 for the Jets?
Well, the defense is going to be a strength for the Jets, no doubt about that, and I give them a 4.5.
Me as well, 4.5. The secondary, Sauce Gardner, Chuck Clark, Tony Adams, DJ Reed, Michael Carter. Let's see here. I thought there was another guy here that I liked. I can't find him. Isaiah Oliver. How do you rank the DBs for the Jets?
I gave them a 4.5 also. Sauce Gardner's really, really good. And if you have a good defensive line, a front 7, that's going to help your defensive backs and vice versa, and they should complement each other.
Yeah, I gave him a 4, so not far off from you on that one. I like it overall, so I gave him a 4 there. All right, we're 33 minutes in, and we still have a whole division to go, so let's keep moving. Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy, of course, is back. Brian Schottenheimer, the OC. Mike Zimmer, the DC. John Fossil, the special teams coordinator. Where do you put the ceiling for the Cowboys this year?
The playoffs. I think they can get in the playoffs. I don't think they'll go a lot further than that, so that's where I have them.
All right, I gave them a deep run. I think they have the talent to do that. Will they is another question, of course, but I think that's where they could be. Win totals 10.5. They have been a phenomenal regular season team behind Joe McCarthy. My goodness, Mike McCarthy. How do you feel at 10.5 for the Cowboys?
I'll go under 10.5. I think they might get to 10, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, they'll go over. They'll go over. They're still disappointed in the playoffs, but they'll go over 10.5. All right, let's go to the coach, Mike McCarthy, Super Bowl winning Mike McCarthy. How do you rank him?
I give him a 4. Again, I think he's a good coach. I think he's, been in a tough situation there and maybe in a tough situation this year. But as his ability, I gave him a 4.
I give him 3.5. You can't you can't say he's in a tough situation. He knew what he was getting into. Yeah, I gave him 3.5. I think he's a good coach. But again, this problem in Green Bay was he was predictable. His problem in Dallas has been he hasn't been able to get over the hump. Although I respect the guy, I'm going to go 3.5 for him. Quarterback Dak Prescott, Rico Dowdy, the backup. That's Cooper Rush, the backup quarterback, Trey Lance there as well. How do you rank the quarterback in Dallas?
Well, again, Dak Prescott's a good quarterback, so I gave him a 4. Again, there's been some deals there with him not getting signed up and everything like that. So you always give me a hard time about Dak Prescott, and I know if I give him a lower score, I would hear about it. So we'll give him a 4.
Gave him a 3.5. I like Dak Prescott. I think he's a good quarterback, and I don't think 3.5 is a bad grade. I kind of looked as I'm grading these guys and kind of tiered them up to put them in the right grades, and I got Dak at a 3.5. He's better than a 3, not quite up to the 4s in my opinion. And I like Dak Prescott, by the way. Running backs, Ezekiel Elliott returns. Rico Dowdy is there. Dowdle is there, and then Deuce Vaughn, of course, as well. Royce Freeman. You got a lot of running backs. You just got to find which one's going to play. Anyways, where do you rank the running backs for Dallas?
I'll give them a 3, and that's probably being pretty generous.
It is. I gave him a 2. It's a horrible running back room. Horrible running back room. Pass catchers, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert. Let's see here. Tight ends, Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker. How do you feel about the receiving core and the pass catchers in Dallas?
Well, CeeDee Lamb is really good, and so I think he gives them credibility. They've got a good tight end, so I gave them a 4.
Really? I gave him a 3. And again, kind of like the Jets, CeeDee Lamb is on his own very, very good. Cooks, I don't love Cooks anymore. I don't like any of the other receivers. And as much as I like Jake Ferguson, I don't know that he is a dynamic tight end and dynamic pass catcher. So I went a little low on them with a 3, even though CeeDee Lamb is there and phenomenal. O-line, Tyler Guyton, first-round pick. Tyler Smith, the 22 first-round pick. Zach Martin, the 2014 first-round pick. They got Brock Hoffman and Terrence Steele. They also drafted Cooper Beebe in the 3rd round. They've got Chuma Edoga that came over from Atlanta. How do you feel about the offensive line in Dallas?
I gave them a 3.5. So I don't think they're anywhere near where they used to be, and that's about where I've got them.
I've got them at a 3. I think they can outperform that, but that's where I put them at. Front 7, DeMarcus Lawrence, Mozzie Smith, Osa, I'm not even going to try to say his last name, Micah Parsons, Damon Clark, Eric Kendricks comes over as well. They spent some draft capital in this area with Maris Laifua and Marshawn Nealon as well, 2nd and 3rd round picks. How do you feel about the front 7 for Dallas?
Parsons is really good. He's a game changer right there, and they're solid down the line. So looking at where people ranked them, I gave them a 5. They're a really strong defensive line.
Wow. Okay. I gave him a 3. Parsons may be the best defender in all the league. He is great. Lawrence is just, he's on the back end of the career. And, I don't know. Yeah. I just went a little low on this defensive front 7 too. Defensive backs, Trevon Diggs, Donovan Wilson, Malik Hooker, Deron Bland, Jordan Lewis back there. How do you feel about the secondary for Dallas?
With them, I gave them a 3.5.
Wow. Man, you're really high on Dallas this year, Dad. I gave them a 3, a little bit below you. I think they're fine. I don't love much about them. So I go with 3 for Dallas. Interesting, man. You think they're a Super Bowl team with the way you're ranking them. All right, let's go on to the New York Football Giants coming up next. Let's start with the ceiling for the Giants this year, Dad. How do you have them? Where do you have their ceiling at?
I think it's going to be a tough year for them, so I gave them a ceiling of 5 wins. Maybe they could get to 8, but again, based on the choices you gave me, I put them in the lower category.
Yeah, I did too. I put it at 6 wins. I just forgot apparently what I gave you for criteria. I apologize. I got them at 6 wins. Here, the win total is 6.5. I'm willing to go under 6.5 on the Giants. How about you?
Yeah, I'll go under 6.5 also.
Let's see here. Head coach Brian Daboll. He's got Mike Kafka as his OC, Shane Bowen as his DC, and Michael Gobral as his special teams coordinator. All right, Dad. I put Brian Daboll in the same category as Robert Saleh. I like him. What have I seen from him? I give him a 2.5. Where do you put Brian Daboll?
I gave him a 3, but again, I agree he hasn't showed a lot yet. So, but I think there's potential, so I gave him a 3.
Yeah, I think he's as handcuffed as any coach in the league right now with the quarterback situation. So yeah, that's where I put him at though. Quarterback Daniel Jones and Drew Lock going to be fighting for that starting job, and a lot of people think Drew Lock's going to see playing time this year. How do you rank the quarterbacks in New York?
Give him a 3, and that may be a little generous.
Yes, it is. I gave him a 2 there. I mean, listen, if Daniel Jones does anything good this year, give him comeback player of the year. Running back room looks awfully different this year. Devin Singletary, Eric Gray, and then they drafted Tyrone Tracy later in the draft this year. How do you feel about the Giants running back room?
Yeah, it was really tough with their loss there, so I gave him a 2.5.
Still being nice. I gave him a 2. It's a bad running back room. Pass catchers, they drafted Malik Neighbors in round 1. Still have Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, a great athlete, Jalen Hyatt, their draft pick, 3rd-round draft pick from last year. Tight ends, Daniel Bellinger, Theo Johnson, who's going to, I think, start the year injured, actually. How do you feel about the pass catchers for the Giants?
Well, like I said, they're going to need a lot of help from Neighbors and Hyatt and people like that, but I gave them a 3. But again, that may be a little high also. We'll see.
I gave him a 3 too. I think Hyatt has a bounce back year. He did not really play great last year, but I think he has a bounce back year. I think Wan'Dale Robinson, if used correctly, can be really helpful. I think Neighbors will be good too. I like Darius Slayton. I like him as a 3rd wide receiver, though, not as a 2. And then Hodgins and McKenzie. I mean, they got some guys. I think 3 is a fair shakedown for them. The O-line is Andrew Thomas, Jermaine Elmunur, John Michael Schmitz, John Runyon, and Neil Evans. They drafted, let's see here. No, they did not. So how do you feel about the O-line for the Giants?
I gave them a 2.5. I don't think there's a lot there.
Okay. I gave him a 3. I like Andrew Thomas good enough. I like Evan Neal good enough. And I think John Runyon serviceable in the inside too. So I gave him a 3. Front 7, Raheem Nunez, Roches, Dexter Lawrence, Jordan Phillips comes over from Buffalo, Brian Burns, the big addition from Carolina, Bobby Okereke, and Micah McFadden and Kayvon Thibodeau. How do you feel about the front 7 in New York?
I gave them a 3. Again, some of the young guys will have to play well, but I gave them a 3.
Brian Burns is the top 3 defensive player in the league. Kayvon Thibodeau is very good. Jordan Phillips is very good. I gave him a 4. I love this front 7 in New York, and I think they give the Giants a chance to stay in games. I'm a big fan of the front 7. Now, the secondary, not quite as much. Cordell Flott, Tyler Nubin, the rookie, Jason Pinnock, Deontay Banks, Drew Phillips, another rookie. That's scary enough to say 2 rookies starting. I give him a 2 for the DBs, the secondary. How about you?
I gave him a 2.5, but you're probably right on that. So,
okay. All right. Nice enough. All right. Let's head down to Philly. Dad, what's the ceiling for the Philadelphia Eagles this year?
I think Super Bowl is the ceiling. I think they could be a Super Bowl team. I don't know necessarily that they will be. So, but I gave their ceiling a Super Bowl.
Yeah, 100%. Ceiling is the Super Bowl for Philadelphia. Their win total is 10.5, over under 10.5.
I'll go over 10.5, definitely on that.
Yeah, I agree. The Cowboys should be decent, but the Giants and the Commanders shouldn't be that great. So I think 10.5 is easy over for the Eagles and for the Cowboys personally. Head coach is Nick Sirianni. They got Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator, Michael Clay, special teams. How do you rank Nick Sirianni as the coach?
I still don't know, and I really know a lot about him, but you look at what he has been able to accomplish. So I gave him a 4.
Okay, I went 3.5, and again, I just don't have him in that same tier as the guys I had ranked as 4s. But I don't argue with you for having them at 4 either. Quarterback Jalen Hurts. Of course, they bring in Kenny Pickett as the backup this year. How do you feel about the quarterback in Philadelphia?
Hurts has turned out to be very good, and so I gave him a 4.5.
Okay, I gave him a 4. I think there's still some minor issues and room to improve still for Jalen Hurts. I think he can do it, but I put him at a 4, which again I don't think is a slight. I think that's a pretty good grade. Running backs, they add Saquon Barkley. They still have Kenneth Gainwell, and they bring in Will Shipley in the 4th round this year too. How do you rank the running backs for Philadelphia?
I really like Barkley, so I give them a 4.5 on running backs.
Okay, so I give him a 4. I like Barkley too, but again, there is a reason why people didn't pay him, why the Giants didn't give him what he felt he was worth. He is aging. He has been used a lot. I really do like him, and I like Kenneth Gainwell behind him, and I like Will Shipley, the rookie. But I gave him a 4, which again I don't think is a slight, but that's what I gave him. Pass catchers: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Paris Campbell. They drafted 2 guys in the later rounds this year as well. Tight ends: Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra. Actually, CJ Uzoma is on this team as well. How do you rank the pass catchers for Philadelphia?
Well, I think they've got a good tight end, and again, I think they have another excellent group as far as pair of receivers with Brown and Smith. So I did give them a 5 on pass catchers.
So I'm not as high on Smith maybe as some. I do like A.J. Brown. I think Smith is good. I'm not saying he's not, but and I like Goddard. He has trouble staying healthy. I gave him a 4 at this spot, and I think 4.5 may have been fair, but I gave him a 4. I like them, but I'm concerned about whether or not they stay on the field. O-line is Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, and Lane Johnson. They spent some late draft capital as well this year. They bring in Mekhi Becton from New York too. How do you rank the O-line here for the Eagles?
I think they've got a good O-line. I give them 4.5.
All right. I gave him a 4. But again, that's pretty good. Defensive front 7, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Bryce Huff, Zach Bond, Devin White comes over from Tampa. Josh Sweat is there as well. They got Nolan Smith from Georgia last year. Brandon Graham is still around as well. How do you feel about the front 7 for Philly?
I think they've got a strong front 7. I give them a 4.
I gave him a 4 also. Yeah, age scares me a little bit with some of these guys, but they got some young guys too. They got potential to be dynamic for sure. The secondary is Darius Slay, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship, Isaiah Rodgers, Avonte Maddox. They go 1st round corner with Quinyon Mitchell, 2nd round corner with Cooper DeJean. So they got some young guys back here as well. Keely Ringo from last year's 4th round pick also. How do you rank the secondary for Philadelphia?
Now, again, I think they have a good secondary, so I gave them a 4 in the secondary also. And it's always exciting to see an old Blue Raider in there with Blankenship.
Yeah, I gave him a 3.5 actually. I think these young guys are going to need a year. I think there's potential. They could definitely be better than that. That's just kind of where I had them sitting at. here this year. All right, Washington Commanders. I think this might be the most interesting team to talk about in these East divisions, Dad. Where do you have the ceiling at for Washington? New coaching staff, rookie quarterback. Where do you put the ceiling at for Washington?
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I gave them in the 8-win category.
That's exactly where I got them, Dad, as well. I think they could pull out 8 wins this year. Their win total is 6.5. I'm going to go over. I like what Washington's done, and I think 7 or 8 wins is something they can do. So I'll go over 6.5. How about you?
Yeah, I think it could be real close there to 6.5, but I'll go over also. They may get to 7 or so. We'll just see how they do in the division. So,
a really interesting coaching staff. Dan Quinn's the head coach. Cliff Kingsbury's the offensive coordinator. Joe Witt Jr. is the defensive coordinator. And Larry Izzo, special teams coordinator. A lot of experience in this staff, but we're focused on Dan Quinn. Where do you rank him?
I'll give him a 3.5. I really like him, but again, he's new, so we'll see how he can do.
He's a great coordinator. I put him in as a 3, but I'm hoping he's better than that. So I like Dan Quinn a lot, but I'm going to start him at a 3 this year and let him earn some upgrade throughout the time. Quarterback, rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota comes over as the backup. How do you rank the quarterbacks in Washington?
Again, we'll see how Daniels does. We'll give him a 3. I almost gave him a 3.5, but I hope he does well, and he'll be a big, he'll be the difference maker, I think, with them.
Yeah, I gave him a 3 too. I think the rookie's going to have to earn more than that. The running back room, Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler from Los Angeles comes over. Chris Rodriguez, he was a 6th round pick. He got some playing time last year. How do you feel about the running backs in Washington?
Well, I like Robinson. I think he'll do well. Eckler, will he rebound anything to like he used to be with the Chargers? If he does, then I give them a 4 because they could be real strong.
I gave him a 4.5, Dad. One of my top running back rooms that I ranked. I think Brian Robinson is very good. I think Austin Eckler is going to be refreshed in this move and is going to be used properly. I think Chris Rodriguez is really good. I love this running back room. I go 4.5 for the Washington Commanders. Pass catchers, Scary Terry McLaurin, Johan Dotson, the rookie, Luke McCaffrey. He's got to be good, right? Zach Ertz over at tight end. Ben Sano, also 2nd-round draft pick in there as well at tight end. How do you feel about the pass catchers in Washington?
Well, I always like Ertz, especially in fantasy, but, he is getting older. McCarron is good. So I gave them a 3.5. They may do all right. Dotson, I like him also. So,
I gave him 3.5 also. I think that's a fair score right now. I think they could be better. I think they could also be worse. O-line, Cornelius Lucas, Nick Allegretti, Tyler, I don't know how to say his name either, Sam Cosme, and Andrew Wiley. They spent a 3rd rounder this year on Brandon Coleman. How do you feel about the O-line in Washington?
We'll give them a 3.
Yeah, I went 2.5. I don't like this O-line very much at all. Front 7, Dorrance Armstrong, Darren Payne, Jonathan Allen, Cleveland Farrell, Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner. My goodness, who else they got? Jazon Newton, who they brought in the draft in the 2nd round on the D line. Jamin Davis is still there as well. Last year or a couple years ago's 1st round pick. How do you feel about the front 7 for Washington?
Well, when you look at Washington, a couple of years ago, their defense was such a strength for them, but everybody's kind of gone now. So we'll see on the defensive front. On the front 7, I gave them a 3.
I went 3.5. I really like Payne and Allen in the middle. I think Newton was a really good draft pick as well. Dante Fowler, by the way, is there too. Forgot about him. I like the front 7 here. I go 3.5. DBs, Benjamin St. Juste, Jeremy Chin, Derek Forrest, Michael Davis, and Mike Sanristil. How do you feel about the DBs here? Well, Emmanuel Forbes is there too. Sorry. How do you rank them?
I gave them a 2.5. I don't know that there's a lot of strength there, and defense could be a problem for Washington as they get started. But again, Quinn's a defensive guy, so we'll see.
Yeah, I give them a 2. I'm really, really down on this secondary. I think that's what hurts them probably the most here this year on their team as well. So, all right, well, there you go. There's the AFC and NFC East. We've given you the ceilings, the win totals, and the rankings for each of these teams. Feel free to comment where you disagree with us, because I'm sure you do, and let us know about that. Dad, that's all we're going to talk about today. We got NASCAR's going to Indianapolis. Make sure you get your fantasy lineups in. Put the best drivers you can possibly think of in if you're able to. That'll help you there. Pocono wasn't super exciting, but we're out of time anyhow. So anything else you want to add before we close out the show?
Nope, I think that's it. Like I said, it's exciting. Football's coming up. Training camp's coming up next week. So we're well into the NFL. Of course, college football here before long also. And the NASCAR season, like you said, is bearing down on the playoffs. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch that the next few weeks also.
Agreed. Olympics, exciting times as well. I mean, there's enough happening. Baseball getting right back to it as well. We'll talk more baseball Sunday night at 8:00. Tune in there for the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show. We talk Major League Baseball news, of course, as well during that. Monday, the Sports Stove Local Hour covering EKU football. And next Wednesday, right back here as well. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you visit righteousfelon.com. Use the code STOVE15. Follow us on social media at Sports Stove. Until next time, we'll see you around the sport.